Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the Learning Corner with me, Kristopher motherfucking McCoy. We are going to be reading chapter 9 of Every Day of Friday by Joel Osteen, How to Be Happier 7 Days a Week. Let's hop right into it. So, chapter 9, A No Excuses Life. I'm a sports fan. I love the classic and true story of a boy whose dream was to play professional baseball. He was extremely gifted. All through junior high and high school, he was by far the most talented player in his league. Professional scouts were regularly at his games. Then one day he had a farming accident. He lost the whole forefinger and most of the middle finger on his throwing hand. It looked like his baseball days were over, but this young man had a no excuses mentality. He learned to throw the ball without those two fingers, even though they are usually the main fingers used to throw a baseball. He had always been a third baseman, but one afternoon during practice, the coach was standing behind this young man and noticed some interesting movement on the ball when he threw from third to first. The coach asked him to try pitching. Turns out that was a very good idea. Mordecai, Three Fingers Brown went on to become one of the greatest pitchers in the early history of Major League Baseball. In fact, he played for six different teams, including the St. Louis Cardinals and the Chicago Cubs, competing until the age of 40. He helped win two World Series and was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1949. What many thought would be a liability turned out to be the greatest asset. The spin three finger Brown could put on the ball made it very difficult to hit. God knows how to God knows how to take what should be a disadvantage and turn it into an advantage. It's often easy to come up with explanations to why you cannot do or be your best. Most people think that they have a handicap of one kind or another, something that is holding them back. It may be a physical challenge or personality issue, or may be a divorce or a financial problem. I've heard many explanations, including I'm just the wrong nationality and I was born on the wrong side of the tracks. Each of us has challenges to overcome. But just because you think you have a disadvantage doesn't mean you should sit back and settle where you are. God still has something great for you to do. You may not like everyone else. You may not be able to do what others can do. But if you will stay in faith and stay positive about your future, you can turn your liabilities into assets. If you find yourself apologizing for being different, why not start looking at yourself as a unique instead? You are not too tall or too short. You are just the right size. You have just the right personality, just the right looks, and just the right talents. When God made you, He wasn't having a bad day. He made you to be the way you are on purpose. He finished creating you, and then He stepped back and said, "That was good. I like that. Another masterpiece." There may be things about you that you don't like, but you cannot allow those things to hold you back and keep you from pursuing your dreams. You are made in God's image. My mother had polio as a child. She wore braces on her legs. Today, one of her legs is much smaller than the other. When she buys shoes, she has to pick out two pairs because her feet are two different sizes. But one thing I've always loved about my mother is that she never allows her differences to stop her from pressing forward. She could have shrunk back and tried to hide her differences and felt insecure, but instead she has no excuses mentality. She knows she's been made in the very image of Almighty God. She wore shorts and dresses growing up, never tried to hide her legs. She still wears dresses today. My mother is 77 years old and is still showing off her legs. Don't let her fool you. She loves it. The effects of her polio never stopped her from working in the yard and around the house or wanting to help others. She could have thought, I can't pray for my others to heal. My legs are not well. But she did not allow her own health issues to stop her from praying for others in need of healing. You don't have to be perfect for God to use you. Take the hand you've been dealt and make the very most of it. Believe that God turns situations around. Believe that He'll bring healing. Even if it doesn't happen, you can still honor God by being the best you can be right where you are. My sister Lisa was born with symptoms similar to cerebral palsy. The doctors told my parents that she'd never be able to walk, never be able to feed herself. They said, "You might as well prepare to take care of a disabled child." Of course, my parents were devastated. They prayed, they believed, they stood in faith, and little by little, Lisa got better and better. Today, she is perfectly normal. She's on staff with us here, and she often ministers for us. I have another minister friend by the name of David Ring. Like Lisa, he was born with a form of cerebral palsy, but God's plan for his life was different. David Ring was not healed. When he talks, it takes him 3 or 4 times as long to get words out. When he walks, his legs and arms don't function normally. David easily could have sat at home and thought, too bad for me, I have this disability. My speech is slow, I can't get around. God, I thought you wanted me to do something great. I thought you wanted me to be a minister. I must have been wrong. I have this handicap. Let me tell you about David Ring. Nothing slows him down. He travels the world speaking to thousands of people, telling them about the goodness of God, and encouraging them to overcome obstacles. When he speaks, he is difficult to understand because he speaks very slowly. But I love the way he always starts. He says, "My name is David Ring. What's your excuse?" Think about this. Lisa was healed from cerebral palsy and she's honoring God with her life. David Ring is living with cerebral palsy and he's honoring God with his life. What am I saying? You must you must take what God gives you and make the very most of it. You cannot sit around thinking, why did this happen to me? You must take God you must take what God gives you and make it the very most of it. Quit forcing quit focusing on the whys. Faith is all about trusting God, even when you don't understand His plan. You could have been healed, David, just like He restored my sister Lisa. But God is sovereign. Sovereign. I don't claim to understand it all, but I do know this: God is good. He has a great plan for my life, a destiny for you to fulfill. No matter how many disadvantages or setbacks you must deal with, if you shake off the self-pity, stop blaming and keep pressing forward, nothing will be able to keep you from becoming all that God created you to be. Stop making excuses. Quit dwelling on disappointments, on the unfairness and hurt inflicted upon you. Know that God has something great coming your way. The worst handicaps are those you place on yourself. Too many people are waiting for God to make them perfect before they pursue their dreams and destinies. Go after yours right now. Honor God with what you have. He wants to take your liabilities and turn them into assets. First, though, you have to accept that God may not remove your challenge, but He will use it in your advantage. In the scripture, there is a story of a man who was born blind. See John 9. Some people were asking Jesus, why was he born this way? And whose fault was it, his or his parents? They were trying to find out to they were trying to find someone to blame, a reason or an excuse. We tend to do the same things today, but I love the way Jesus answered. He said, "It's not anybody's fault, not his or his parents. The reason he was born this way was so that the goodness of God could be displayed." Jesus was saying, when you have a setback or when life deals you a tough blow, don't be bitter. Don't settle there. Recognize that you are a prime candidate for God to show his favor and goodness through. If you feel you are at disadvantage or disabled, instead of saying, "It's not fair, God," your attitude should be, "God, I'm ready. I know you have something great in store. I refuse to live defeated and depressed. I know this disadvantage is simply another opportunity for you to show up and show out." That's exactly what Tony Melendez Melendez Tony Melendez did. He was born without any arms. As a little boy, he had a desire to play the guitar. Something inside said, "You're supposed to sing and write music." Tony didn't know any better. He couldn't have said, "Too bad for me. I'd love to play the guitar, but I don't have any arms." Instead, his attitude was, "I may not have any arms, but I do have feet. I may not have any fingers, but I do have 10 toes." Tony learned to play the guitar with his feet. He can play better with his feet than most people can play with their hands. When God puts on a dr- when God puts a dream in your heart, when He puts a promise on the inside, He deposits in you everything you need to accomplish that dream. God wouldn't have given Tony the desire without giving him the ability. It just wasn't the normal way. Tony had to be bold enough to say, "I am living a no excuse life." Yes, this may look like a handicap. Yes, in the natural, I may have a disadvantage, but I know that with God, there are no handicaps. I know when God made me, God wasn't having a bad day. God made me with a purpose, with a destiny to fulfill, and I will do my best to bring honor to God. Tony had a can-do attitude. Other people are hung up on what they can or cannot do or what they don't have. but those disadvantages are really advantages just waiting to come to life. Today, Tony has unprecedented favor. He has traveled to more than 40 countries, singing and sharing his story of faith. God is using him to do great things. Most people never have to deal with anything as challenging as Tony's missing limbs. Yet people often let more common problems like divorce, job loss, or financial challenges overwhelm them. They need to adapt. Tony's no excuse mentality, press forward and give God time to run their liabilities into assets. Pray for God's guidance. In my early days as a pastor at Lakewood, I felt as though my laid-back personality was a disadvantage. My father was a fiery leader. I felt I need a more dynamic, outgoing personality when I took charge. I said, God, you have that you have to change me. I have a disadvantage. I'm soft-spoken. I'm more reserved. My father could fire up a crowd. I've seen other ministers with powerful voices preach deep theological messages with great eloquence. They can move the whole congregation just with their delivery and enunciation. They are very dramatic. I have a southern drawl. I talk softly in a normal tone. When my father went to be with the Lord, I said, God, I don't know if I can fill his shoes. I'll see what happens. But what I thought would be a liability turned out to be an asset. I realized that God made me like this on purpose. I don't have, I do not have the booming voice. I do not have the dynamic personality. I do not preach fancy sermons, but people tell me my messages are easy to understand because my voice is calm and soothing. In fact, one lady said, Joel, I listen to you before I go to bed every night. You put me right to sleep. She meant it as a compliment. What is your handicap? What is keeping you from believing in yourself and from pursuing your divine destiny? God knew all the issues you would face, your struggles, your weakness, and your inadequacies. You are no surprise to God. God will use your handicap to deliver your divine destiny. Ain't that the truth? Luke 19, 1 through 10 tells the story of a man named Zacchaeus. Zacchaeus? Zacchaeus. 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 He had a disadvantage. He was too short, no doubt. Growing up in school, the other children teased him, calling him Shorty or Peanut. I can only imagine he wanted to be more like everyone else, but understood God made us like we are on purpose. One day, Zacchaeus heard that Jesus was coming through his town. All the people were lined up on the streets trying to get a glimpse of Jesus. Zacchaeus didn't have a chance. He was standing at the back and could not see over anyone. He could have easily given up and felt sorry for himself. Instead, he climbed a tree and had a great view, maybe the best. His disadvantage turned into an advantage. When Jesus came down the street, he looked above the crowd and saw Zacchaeus in a tree. Jesus called out to Zacchaeus and asked to have dinner at his house. If Zacchaeus had been normal size, he wouldn't have climbed the tree and caught the attention of Jesus in the crowd. But because of his handicap, Zacchaeus climbed higher and reaped one of the highest possible rewards. Take a higher perspective as Zacchaeus did. Look at your supposed liability and consider that it may be an advantage. I realize now my laid back, easygoing, soft spoken personality is an asset. For me to act like someone else would not work. I've accepted who I am, and so has our congregation. You too have what you need to succeed. Mhm. I heard about another young athlete who was born without a right hand. One day he was at the doctor's office having a physical so he could play football. The doctor asked him what his disability was. He said, Sir, I don't have a handicap. I just don't have a right hand. I love that attitude. I don't have a handicap. I play the guitar with my feet. I don't have a handicap. I speak a little slower. I don't have a handicap. I'm just not as tall as somebody else. I encourage you to live without excuses. Dwell on what you can do. Focus on your gifts. Refuse to feel sorry for yourself. Shake off self pity. Concentrate on being everything God created you to be. If you'll live that way in faith and unbowed, God will turn your handicaps and disabilities for your good. He will take your he will take every stumbling block and turn it into a stepping stone. Something may look like a liability, but as with all these examples I've cited, God will transform it into an asset. There are no disadvantages with God. You have everything you need to succeed. Live without excuses. And that, my friends, is chapter 9. So I want to take a moment just to thank you so much for letting me read to y'all. It's been a pleasure. I hope you learned something. I hope you gained something out of this. Again, my name, it's Christopher motherfucker McCoy. I am Superman here reading to you with the Learning Corner. Please like, comment, share, subscribe. If you comment, I'll write you back in 48 hours or less. I love y'all. Y'all have a wonderful afternoon, great day, or evening, wherever you are. Please be safe and remember to be kind, rewind, approve new dreams. Every single one of you. You are beautiful. You are blessed. You're breaking down barriers, boundaries, and borders. Please have hope, faith, and love during these trying times because they're definitely tough. Know that every single one of you is a boss. But most of all, my friends, including myself, every single one of you is a motherfucking beast. And beast don't break. I'm Christopher motherfucking McCoy here on the KMFM channel, reading you Joel Osteen every day at Friday. I hope you have a wonderful day here at the Learning Channel. I'll see y'all soon. Peace and love, y'all. Peace and love.